Welcome into the Michigan Football Report. We are 72 hours following the debacle in Columbus. Most embarrassing 3 hours maybe in Michigan football history. I was there in person to watch it, and I didn't even go back into the stadium. I got in the middle of the third quarter. I watched in the concession stand. That's how embarrassed I was to walk around with a Michigan jersey and a Michigan zip-up jacket on. People weren't even harassing me. They were just taking pity on me, which I think is worse. I am James Yoder, the face of Michigan football media. Just going to give you my takeaways, a little bit different of a show than your normal Michigan football report. What I see with the Michigan football program following the 62-39 abomination of a performance by the Michigan football team on Saturday in Columbus. So let's jump into my takeaway number one following that embarrassment of a program. This offense needs to change, folks. It is absolutely absurd what Michigan is putting out there as an offense, specifically on road games, specifically in road games against ranked teams. We saw it kind of coming together in 2016, or I guess falling apart in 2016, where a dominant Michigan team struggled with mediocre teams on the road like Iowa and some others. And it really fell apart last year. Penn State, they couldn't get anything going. Wisconsin on the road, they couldn't get anything going. And it really crystallized this year, the first game, the last game, two top 10 teams on the road. I was in person for both of them, and let me just say this, folks. It looked, 4 games this year for Michigan, it looked drastically different than the 2 games I went to at home. 2 road games, 2 home games. It looked like drastically different teams. I want to take a look at the final stats here for this team. Number 46 overall offense in America. This is not a team coached by a defensive guru like Dave Wannstedt back in the 90s or something like that. This is a Michigan team that expected Jim Harbaugh to be an offensive innovator, a quarterback in college, a quarterback in the NFL, quarterback in college, a head coach in the NFL that really kind of was known as a quarterback whisperer when he was at San Diego, when he was at Stanford, and then took Colin Kaepernick to the Super Bowl. Alex Smith to a NFC championship game as his quarterback, but can't get it done with Michigan. The biggest glaring just absurdity on this list, number 83 in the country, they're going to finish passing this season. 200 plus, 212 yards a game. I want to take a look at Shea Patterson. It is not like there is no talent. I would argue that perceived talent, Michigan with their 3 wide receivers and Zach Gentry at tight end has one of the top 10 receiving crews in the country for a quarterback to throw to as far as perceived talent. Yet Shea Patterson, I know Ole Miss has 2 potential first-rounders down there themselves, but in 6.5 games last year, 7 starts in which the 7th he got hurt against LSU, I think in the early third quarter, his stats are nearly identical, meaning he put up almost twice as much per game in those outings at Ole Miss. Obviously, the records were different, more successful from a wins and loss perspective. But this is a player that outshined Dwayne Haskins at the Elite 11, was guys like Felipe Franks and some others, the guy out of Washington, former Georgia quarterback whose name I'm forgetting at the moment. But Shea Patterson went against all those guys in high school. He was the best passer. He dominated at the Elite 11. He went and Ole Miss, started some games as a true freshman, yet Jim Harbaugh does not give him the ability to throw the ball downfield until Michigan is in desperation mode. And still then, Jacob Eason being the name of that quarterback, now probably the starter at Washington last year, started as a true freshman at Georgia before he was unseeded. But if you think about the Michigan offense right now, when are they going to open up? No wide receiver has had a 100-yard game in the past 2 seasons. Let me repeat that. No wide receiver with a 100-yard receiving game in 2 seasons. That is absolutely unacceptable. I'm not going to spend time going through every single team's game for the last 2 years, but it is pretty clear that's a disaster. But I would be hard-pressed to find a single team that has less than 5 or 6 players outside of maybe Navy or a team that runs the triple option that doesn't have 3, 4, 5, 6 players, 6 games a year where they have a 100-yard wide receiver. Zach Gentry, tight end, 1 game in that period, had 100 yards receiving. That is your tight end. That is unacceptable. You bring in 3 high-level 4-star and DPJ a 5-star wide receiver in the 2017 recruiting class. Those guys are all sophomores this year. They're all starting. They have all kinds of playing time, yet you won't give Shea Patterson, one of the top 10 quarterbacks, one of the top 5 as far as passer efficiency, any ability to win you a game. I think it is absolutely ridiculous. And so I want to ask you guys this question. I'm going on this rant, and that's what I'm going to do this whole show. Should Harbaugh give a new offensive coordinator 100% control? Because as you know, Michigan does not have an offensive coordinator, or at least publicly announced one. Jim Harbaugh is the offensive coordinator, and it's an offensive coordinator by committee. I think it is an absolute sham. It's a disaster, and we saw it play out. You had 9 months to get ready for Notre Dame, and we saw what happened there. And in realistic, you've had 12 months to get ready for Ohio State, and we saw what the offensive output was there. It was absolutely embarrassing, and I want to know from you guys watching on the Chat Sports YouTube channel, Michigan Wolverines by Chat Sports, Facebook Live. Should Jim Harbaugh give a new offensive coordinator 100% control? Go ahead and answer yes or no in the comments, and we will take it from there. Before we go on to the rest of Yoder's rants on this debacle of a game, I want to ask you, if you're watching, obviously you are, Facebook Live, YouTube. If you're not in the podcast, even taking us with you, watch on your own. Go ahead, if you've got an iPhone, chatsports.com/Yoder, drops you right into the iTunes store. Hit subscribe or press on your phone, Siri, subscribe to the Michigan Football Report, and you will be subscribed. You'll know every time we have a new episode. Watch it whenever you want. All right, next takeaway from the beatdown in Columbus. I told you Michigan needs an offensive coordinator bad. It's kind of the last version, but I want to go into this a little further. 2 years ago, when DJ Durkin mailed it in against the Ohio State game and was out looking for a job, took the Maryland job, Jim Harbaugh went and approached that hire as, let's find the guy who has maybe the best defense in the country, who runs the scheme that can get us to championship level. Let's talk to a bunch of people, a bunch of defensive gurus like Bill Belichick, and ask them, who would you hire? And he found Don Brown. And the results have been pretty good, outside of 62 points in Columbus. And I want to understand why he won't do that for the offensive side of the ball. It is really, frankly, it's ridiculous. Michigan needs an offensive coordinator that can bring this offense into the modern day. Urban Meyer hires successful coaches. If you look at his track record, Ryan Day could get a coaching job tons of places, head coaching job, not just an OC. Kevin Wilson brought over a guy who orchestrated the best offense in college football history at Oklahoma in 2009 or whatever it was, 60 points a game for like 6 straight games. He's now at Ohio State, helping run the offense. Tom Herman is at Texas. Tim Beck is the OC at Texas. Hell, even the defensive side, a guy like Mike Vrabel as a head coach in the NFL. That's the kind of guy Urban Meyer hires. Dan Mullen, Kyle Whittingham, head coaches at major programs, all got their start and had their kind of learning and came to their coaching career blossom under Urban Meyer. The same cannot be said for Jim Harbaugh. And so I took a deep dive. I looked at Harbaugh's background, look who's doing innovative things on offense, and I've put together 10 people I think Michigan should really strongly consider to be the new offensive coordinator to give 100% control. So you're all going to recognize that name, number 1 on the list. Jedd Fisch was fired as an NFL offensive coordinator for the Jags, came to Michigan. They had a great offense under him. We're going to show you the passing stats there here in a moment. But Jedd Fisch left Michigan after that first year, spent 2 seasons, I guess it was, with UCLA. And now, their coach got fired, spent the last season with who? The LA Rams, helping their passing attack. You don't think the most exciting offense maybe we've seen in football history, can the guy, inside those meetings can learn and bring some of that to the college game where the players aren't even anywhere close to as good, the schemes aren't anywhere close to as challenging to beat? I think Jedd Fisch is twice the potential offensive mind for Michigan as he was 2 years ago when he left. So definitely want to look at Fisch. We're going to take a look at these numbers. It's been 3 years without Fisch. Number 53 nationally in passing, which isn't phenomenal, but you've got to remember, first year in the system, and Jake Rudolph, a cast-off fifth-year quarterback that no other school wanted, that Iowa said can't start it for us anymore, number 53 in the country. It goes down from there when he leaves. It goes down further in 2017 to number 111 in the country, under 200 yards passing, and even with Shea Patterson, even with 3 top 100 recruits at wide receiver, Yusuf, the number 83 passing offense in the country, absolutely needs fixed, and I think Jedd Fisch is the guy who can do it, and frankly, he's available. I mean, he really is. He is available to be Michigan's offensive coordinator. He has not gotten promoted, and he has not taken some big-time job or Michigan's not going to pull him for. Other names, Cale Gundy, Oklahoma, has been there forever, but did he get passed over for the head coaching job? Not sure about that, but we all know that Lincoln Riley is really the offensive play caller there. So Cale Gundy has run that system in some way, shape, or form for close to 20 years. He could potentially be the guy. I think he might be up for a new challenge. Mike Yurcich came out of a small little school in Pennsylvania 4 or 5 years ago, runs an amazing offense at Oklahoma State. They can't afford to pay him the kind of money Michigan's paying their offensive mind. So I think Mike Yurcich could be the guy. Brian Wright, we talked about him last year at Toledo, young guy, has put together an amazing offense there. And then Shane Waldron, not a guy I know a ton about personally, but as I dug deep and talked to some people, he is seen to be Sean McVay's right-hand man with them same LA Rams in that offense. He's the passing game coordinator for them. Some other names, some younger names, much younger names, a few of these that Michigan could consider. Kendall Briles had an awesome stop with Lane Kiffin at the FAU. Now he's at Houston. You saw what they did at offense this year. Really great. I don't care if his last name is Briles. He wasn't implicated or anything like that, any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. He could be the guy from Michigan. Charlie Weiss Jr., I think he's only like 25. No joke. Spent 2 years as an assistant with Lane Kiffin at Alabama and as offensive coordinator, 25 years old at FAU. Larry Fedora, one of the old originators of the spread offense, just got fired at UNC. He's on the market. Mike Johnson, an old Harbaugh buddy, was an assistant coach when Harbaugh was a player with the Chargers, was rumored to be coming to be Michigan's wide receivers coach a few years ago, is the wide receivers coach at Oregon, could be an option. And then Tavita Pritchard, you all may remember him. He got Wally pipped by Andrew Luck at Stanford, was starting. Luck took his job. He is actually the 31-year-old offensive coordinator at Stanford. Their passing game took a big leap forward this year under him. So that is one to potentially consider. Played for Harbaugh for 4 years and then got his coaching start under Jim Harbaugh in 2010 as a grad assistant. So those are my 10 names. We'll see what happens if Harbaugh makes a move. I do think Pep Hamilton needs to be the fall guy when it comes to that offensive, having enough room on the offensive staff to hire someone like that. As always, we are presented by BetDSI. I want to thank everybody who got with BetDSI over the 2018 football season, is making their bets. A lot of bets to be made: NFL, college football, bowl games, conference championship games. If you want to get hooked up with the best promotion of all time for sports gambling, 120% deposit bonus, BetDSI is the place to go. Use that promo code GOBLUE, chatsports.com/bet will drop you right on the page. Type in the promo code GOBLUE, you get a 120% deposit bonus when you get going with them. All right, keep it moving with some more of my takeaways from this disastrous loss to Ohio State on a 10-2 season. I'm not mad. I just think there's changes that need to be made, and people are certainly demanding answers. Here's just a question. I'm going to ask you guys, but I'm also going to talk about it. Let's just leave this up here for a second, laying behind the camera. What does Jim Harbaugh like more? Does he like winning more, or does he like running his offense more? Because that's all I can think it comes down to at this point. Whether he likes winning or his offense. Because if he likes his offense better, he is okay with losing every big game on the road, every year to Ohio State, or probably every bowl game. He's 1-2 in bowl games against big-time teams that can outscore you, that can only defend 30%. You have to defend 30% of the field. If he wants to win, he will modernize the offense. He will realize he's not the best offensive play caller in college football. And maybe the guy right there shaking hands is him, or his assistants potentially could be. But the offense Michigan puts out there does not match their personnel. It really doesn't. If for 1 second Michigan thought that they could stop Ohio State and then outscore them enough with that offensive game plan, that running the ball straight into the back of into your left guard's ass, that's the best offense that Michigan has in the biggest game in Jim Harbaugh's career. That isn't going to cut it for me. So the question will remain, what does Jim Harbaugh like more? Does he like winning more, or does he like running his Bo Schembechler-esque 1986 offense, which is predicated on tight ends, which is predicated on wide receivers blocking for counter running back plays, putting in guys like Jake McCurry, who have absolutely no business being out there as a walk-on against Ohio State when Tariq Black and Donovan Peoples-Jones are on the bench, because you're fooling no one. What does he like more, winning or his offense? That is the question. I think we're going to find out. If no changes are made in the offensive staff, if there's an offensive coordinator brought in, he likes his offense. He likes old Michigan football better than he likes winning Michigan football. And that is the question for you, Jim Harbaugh, from the face of Michigan football media, James Yoder. it's on the table, man. Make a decision, winning or your offense. All right, let's keep it moving. This is one I want to address because I have seen so many softies and snowflakes on Twitter that it's just blowing my mind how weak-minded people have become in this world. Oh, Ohio State fans yelled at me. They said, "Go Bucks," and Michigan sucks to me, and my son was by me. Wah, wah, wah. Look, I've been to 2 Ohio State games this season, decked out in Michigan gear, both of them, as I put on Twitter. Didn't go looking for trouble, didn't find trouble, yet all these little sissies on Twitter, Ohio State fans are so mean, they're so mean. Well, you know what? Maybe they take this game a little more friggin' seriously as a fan base and a school, and that's why they've won 14 of the last damn 15 games. It is 2 to 3 times louder than Michigan Stadium at all times throughout the entire game. It is kind of a shithole. It's not a very nice or modern stadium, and despite what you hear from the snowflakes and the softies on Twitter, no one harasses people. I was all over that stadium. I saw Michigan fans all day. I was giving people Go Blues. The only people who find trouble are the ones who want to be obnoxious and scream like they're in Michigan Stadium. The people that are minding their own business, maybe cheering like I was when it was a good play, get no problem. So all these people who think that it's some like third world country, like you're in Rwanda during some sort of invasion, need to check themselves. Stop making things up because you're making yourself look like an idiot. You snowflakes and softies, go watch a damn game because it's 95% Ohio State fans. When it's in Michigan, it's at least 20-25% Ohio State fans every single year, and that home field advantage is a real thing because no damn Michigan fans show up to the game. It's because these fake newsers all over Twitter acting like it's some sort of third world country war zone. So, bunch of fake news. Do not listen to it when you see these snowflakes putting it on their Twitter. All right. Want to thank everyone. Before we go through the rest of my takeaways, I want to thank you for a great season. Audiences continue to go up. We're dominating the blog boys. Thank you guys for watching YouTube, Facebook Live, and if we can get you to jump on that podcast game, we'll be dominating on those 3 platforms. And then want to remind you, make sure you follow me on Twitter. I'm putting out all kinds of little nuggets and pieces of information. We're putting some of these shows on Twitter Live through Periscope. So follow me on Twitter at James T. Yoder. You will not be sorry that you do. Let's keep it moving with my takeaways from the 2018 football season. Urban Meyer is a better motivator than Jim Harbaugh. When Michigan came out against Notre Dame, they looked flat. They looked like a high school team that had just been thrown together a couple weeks prior by a new coach that they never met before. And Urban Meyer, when they play Michigan, and I'll tell you what, when they play in big-time games, his team looks like they want to come out searching for the guy who killed their mother. And it was never more apparent than Saturday. That team came out ready to kill. They thought about Michigan all week, all year, probably all of the last decade, those players. And the second they committed to Ohio State, they were thinking about beating Michigan. And it brings me to just a kind of general takeaway. We see Urban Meyer's record on the screen. Some games have been close, 12, 13, 14. That 14 game was when the touchdown in the last minute, Michigan had an opportunity. Jim Harbaugh, very close in 16, obviously got blown out in 15 there, close in 17, and then gets blown out this year. But Urban Meyer had that team motivated to win. They knew exactly what they were supposed to do. They watched film. They understood how to beat Michigan. I don't think Jim Harbaugh had Michigan there. I'm going to talk about that more in a second, but want to ask you guys this question. Will Michigan ever beat Ohio State with Urban Meyer as their coach? Will they beat the Buckeyes with Urban Meyer? It's been 7 straight for Urban Meyer, 4 of those against Jim Harbaugh. Give me a like if it's yes, they're going to beat the Buckeyes. Give me an angry if it's no. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitter Live, go ahead and just type yes or no. Will the Buckeyes ever beat Urban Meyer or Ohio State with Urban Meyer as their head coach? Urban Meyer gets more out of his players. He got them hyped up. Michigan looked more excited to play Michigan State. They talked about beating Penn State and getting the revenge tour and all that BS more than they did about Ohio State. And I think they came into this game cocky and confident and thought they were going to sleepwalk to a win, and it's not what happened. Shout out Urban Meyer. You were an exponentially better coach than Jim Harbaugh, at least when it comes to motivating players for big games. All right, next up are my takeaways. I told you a few weeks ago, a couple weeks back when they played Nebraska, when Ohio State played Michigan State, when they played Maryland, don't root for Ohio State because then Michigan can lose the game to Ohio State even though you don't want them to. And they still could go to the Big Ten title game, win a conference champions, and all these people on Twitter just were up in arms. I want to beat Ohio State at their best. I want them, blah, blah, blah. All that's going to happen now they beat Michigan is if they win this game, they'll probably get into the playoff on a national stage again, be seen as recruits like five-star Zach Harrison that Michigan has no ability to compete with Ohio State. Why would you root for the team that is really the only thing stopping you 2 of the last 3 years from making the playoff? Why would you ever root them to have success? Winning brings better recruiting, brings more money, brings better coaches. I mean, it's not rocket science here, folks. You want Ohio State to lose every game they play ever, and no different than this Saturday against Northwestern. And even if they beat Northwestern, write your senator. Get Oklahoma in the playoffs, because Ohio State is in the playoff. That is bad for Michigan long term. I don't care about the Rose Bowl. I don't give a flying F about the Rose Bowl. Get in the Peach Bowl, get in the Fiesta Bowl, which are the other two options. Play Washington State or LSU or UCF. Get a win. Go 11-2, which Michigan has done in a long time, and watch Ohio State maybe win a Rose Bowl against a Washington team versus going to the playoff, even if they lose by 40 against Alabama. It is not a good thing for Ohio State to go to the playoffs. So anybody out there I see rooting for Ohio State in hopes that Michigan makes gets into the Rose Bowl, backdoors their way in, loses and gets in the Rose Bowl, that is a loser mentality. Don't do it. Root against Ohio State. Whether they lose the game or not, make sure they look like crap against Northwestern. So Oklahoma gets in that playoff over these Buckeyes. Never a good thing for Michigan, for Ohio State to make the playoff. Basically every year, 14, 16, and then of course this year, 2018. One more time, bet DSI. If you want to bet that game, you saw the Buckeyes are favored by 2 touchdowns. Neutral site game, you never know. They're not that good away from home themselves this year. I put some money on Northwestern, the over-under. Get started with bet DSI. Get some bonus money to make sure if you lose your first bet or two, you're still above water. You're not losing any money. 100% deposit bonus. Put down 100, 120 free. Put down 50, you get 60 there as a bonus. You put down 500, you get $600 free. Don't tell anybody. Go check it out, BetDSI. You will have some extra cash to work with this football season and beyond. You can bet on the NFL draft. Where might Rashawn Gary go? All right, keep it moving. Want to ask you guys a question. Following the scenario I put out in front of you to not root for Ohio State, are you still going to do it? Are you rooting for Ohio State to make the playoff, knowing that Michigan gets automatically put into the Rose Bowl if Ohio State makes the playoff? Are you rooting for Ohio State to make the playoff? Comment yes. If you do, you better give me a damn good reason why. I hope it's not the Rose Bowl. Maybe your wife went there or something like that. Yes or no, below in comments, Facebook Live, and the Chat Sports YouTube channel. All right. Let's keep it moving on here. Lena, we've got the bowl announcement show Sunday afternoon. Time to be determined. As soon as we know, as soon as it is either announced or is leaked to the media, we are going to go live on the Michigan Wolverines by Chat Sports Facebook page. If you're watching on that, great. Keep it moving. Make sure those alerts are on. If you're watching on YouTube, go subscribe to that page on Facebook. Just type in Michigan Wolverines by Chat Sports. Also, Sunday is the college football playoff reveal show. There could be more drama this year than ever with Notre Dame in the playoff. What happens if Alabama loses? What happens if Ohio State and Oklahoma both win? Somebody's getting shut out. There will be all kinds of controversy. This is the biggest one yet, probably. So go ahead and check out Chat Sports, YouTube, and on Facebook Live Sunday. We'll go live for the college football playoff reveal show. What do we say, about 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock Eastern? We'll still decide on what time we're going to go live with that one, but stay with us on Sunday to see who makes the college football playoff. All right, next up, Don Brown. Yeah, got to make adjustments, Don. Everybody called you out against Maryland, against Indiana. These crossing routes, these slants, Don. Come on, they're not getting defended very well. What are you going to do about it? Don Brown very arrogantly told the media, oh, this quarterback got into a window this big. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. When everybody in the world said Indiana has the blueprint for beating Michigan's defense, if they had more talent, they would have done it. That's what Ohio State did, and just basically ran the most simple crossing patterns on Josh Metellus, on Brandon Watson all frigging day, and Don Brown made no adjustments. The defense looked slow. The defensive line looked weak. They looked like a high school defensive line against a really average Ohio State offensive line. The most points ever given up by a Michigan football team in regulation in the storied 137-year history of this program was done on Saturday. Of course, Illinois, under the Rich Rod era, went to 3 overtimes and got 65. But they were, in the high 40s in regulation. 65 points. Tate Forcier, remember that game, had to come in and lead Michigan back to tie it and then go into overtime. 62 points. You've got to go back to a regulation game to 1891 when Cornell, shout out Andy Bernard, his school, when Cornell put 58 on Michigan. That is the kind of defensive ineptitude that Don Brown put up on Saturday. It was an absolute disaster. Rich Rodriguez, that 65 points was in Rich Rodriguez's third year in triple overtime. He only got 50 points in one other game, and that was his absolute last game against Mississippi State when he was fired for 4 weeks, but nobody told him, so he kept getting a paycheck. That's what happened in Rich Rod. He gave up 50 once in regulation. Don Brown gave up 60 in regulation to Ohio State. Absolutely unacceptable. For you, Don Brown, it is time to think about this Ohio State game for the next 365 days. Get going with the Michigan Football Report by Chat Sports podcast. Type in that URL on the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/Yoder. It'll drop you into the iTunes store on the iPhone. Get going, hit subscribe, or press inside your phone, tell Siri, subscribe to the Michigan Football Report podcast. You'll get an alert every time we have a new episode. Continue on my takeaways. Thanks for sticking with us on this one. My rant of the 2018 Michigan football season. I am not a fan of players skipping bowl games when they're either going pro early, which seemed to be the reason players do it. I'm not sure how many seniors have done it in the last few years since Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette got this little trend started a couple years back. But I have been told there is at least one, potentially 2, 3, 4 players, underclassmen, that will declare for, we obviously know one already has, that will declare for the NFL draft that will not be playing in the bowl game. So Michigan's going to go play a team like Washington State or Washington or LSU down 4 or 5 starters. That just seems ridiculous to me. And for these players that are going to skip it, I understand Jake Buck got hurt, a couple years back, but you're literally talking about 1 out of 1,000 players that played in the bowl game that year that has season-ending injury. In fact, it was 2,000-3,000 players. There's 38 bowl games, 80 players per team. You do the math there. But 1 or 2 guys getting hurt in a bowl game does not mean let's go out on our Michigan career a loser. You're going to talk to guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s that said they would give anything for one more opportunity to put the maize and blue uniform on, and you're going to willfully skip the game. I am not a fan of that at all. I don't think no matter how high you are drafted that you should skip a meaningful bowl game. If you're 6-6, look, I get it. That's fine. But Michigan has an opportunity to win 11 games for the first time since 2011, which is fairly rarefied air for the program. You don't win 11 games too often, once or twice a decade, if you are lucky. So I think it's a big mistake for these players to potentially skip the bowl game because they want to get ready for the NFL draft, want to go from there, might get injured. It's incredibly rare that players can get season-ending or career-ending injury in one single game. It's happened 2 times in history. The player Jalen Smith for Notre Dame, and of course Jake Butt. So not a fan of that. Want to know from you guys, are you okay? Are you okay? It seems to me the same people who are okay with players skipping bowl games are the same one who whine when someone says, "Go Bucks," when they're in someone else's stadium and they think that they're getting targeted and offended. So I'm not a fan of it. I say if you make a commitment to the Michigan football program, you play all the games that are on the schedule, including the bowl game. So want to know from y'all, type Y for yes. Are you okay with it? So if you type Y, you were against Yoder. If you type N, you're with me. Y for yes, N for no. What do you think about Michigan players skipping bowl games? There's probably going to be at least 2, if not 3 or 4 players who are going to do it this year. All right, we will be back tomorrow on Wednesday with some Michigan football rumors, kind of something about these players we talked about, and a big-time recruiting update. Think about how the next 3 weeks are going to go until that December 19th signing day. So we'll be back on Wednesday. Stick with us then, and go Blue.